I am joined once again by casters Jack and Primus, who have been very good with us the past couple of weeks. We are about to get right into draft. I will turn it away to our casters.
All right, hello everybody. Jack here, joined by Primus. I will be your play-by-play for the night. Primus will be color. Quickly, as we get into these picks and bans, want to go through our lineups, starting with our home team: Feitan, Phantom Troupe, Feitan, Food Battle topside, Crispy Nugget jungle, Rutenium mid, Eggwhites 80 carry, and Kingmaker support. As we see these bans coming through, Aphelios, obvious, Lilia, obviously, and then junglers, Intrastana being pinched to the other side. Primus, what do we got to say about our Phaeton squad?
Phaeton's been looking very good so far here in, I believe it's Conqueror, if I'm being silly. Anyway, they haven't dropped a match yet. They won last week against one of the other top teams in their group, albeit they didn't have their primary AD carry in that match, but they still took it to a win. None of these bans are too unexpected so far. Rutenium, Eggwhites, and Kingmaker all ranked fairly highly in terms of their positional rankings. ChripsyNuggets barely cracked the top 15. But Food up in that top lane is really the only one lacking behind it. I'm curious to see if Greed looks to try to attack him up in the top side.
And as we see Jinx, first pick in this ELO, I think probably one of the highest priority champions. The carry potential is so strong, and it seems to me by watching some of these games in these E4 leagues that 80 carry seems to be the most loaded position. As we see the match of the Lucian Milio, so effective early game. The lineup for Greed is Punkyrus top lane, Wheelchair jungle, Brother Otter mid, Peekaboo 80 carry, and Bone support.
Yeah, biggest thing we want to keep our eye on here is this is actually a little bit of a former grudge match of teammates we have going on here, as Wheeltail Jungler for Greed was previously on the same lineup as Kingmaker on the firing squad this past split here in Eternal, now that I actually remember the name correctly. Went 12-8, got swept in the first round of playoffs, but there is that potentially build up of some rivalry here between the support for our Phaeton squad and the jungler on the side of XSV Greed. I'm just gonna go Greed. That makes my life easier.
Yeah, and we're seeing right now Phaeton grab some familiar champions here, going for the Ivern. Crispy Nuggets loves playing this pick, loves playing for the team, so obviously going to see that Ivern come through. And then I really like the Janna pickup into Milio. If you're going to go for that second enchanter, having one that doesn't have any CC that Milio can possibly cleanse is a good pick. So Janna will come in, give the extra AD, give the shields. Movement speed is something Jinx obviously is going to love. And main CC is going to be that knock up and knock back on the Howling Gale and Monsoon. Olaf will be that R3 pick for Punkyrus in the top lane for Greed. It could also go to the jungle, but I feel like in this elo, I see Olaf a lot more in top lane.
The one counterpoint I have to that, you do make a good point, it is still theoretically a flex. I think specifically for Greed, based off the research that I did, I feel like this is going towards Wheelchair in the jungle. This is one of his big picks that I saw. It's one of his most played. He loves these 80 bruiser junglers, and given the kind of playstyle tips I got from behind the scenes, he very much likes being able to run in and try to wreak havoc, and Ivern and Janna can't really do much to an Olaf.
Yeah, not only that, they can't stop him, but they also just melt if they get too close. He's going to run straight through them, and you mentioned it, really does fit the playstyle of Wheelchair. When these AD bruiser junglers get banned out, which they often do as they are some of the most meta right now in the jungle, I've even seen, based on his play record, going for stuff like Rek'Sai that hasn't been meta for a very long time, but well within the pool of Wheelchair. As we take a look at what is going to be this blinded solo lane most likely, I'd like to see them grab their mid here and fully utilize last pick to counter Food Battle, because that does seem like the most vulnerable spot for Feitan, as they aren't going to do that. They're going to grab a safe top laner to support the rest of the team with Ornn.
That's a bit odd from the research that I did. I mean, their mid laner has a bit of a unique pool. One of his most played champions is the Vel'Koz and the Brand, which are flexible picks inherently. Being able to be going to support or about familiarity pick, that's not going to happen. So I think that's what they're trying to see, if one of those artillery mages are going to come through. And
God, I love Food Battle.
God probably has the most unique top lane pool I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, seeing some of the Broken Blades stuff come out here, I have seen it be very effective, especially into Ornn. One of the really good interactions for Warwick is you can essentially always dodge out of the knock-up on the pillar for that, the Searing Charge. You guys are going to notice like I got a spreadsheet for my ability names now. You're screwed. But being able to follow through with the Jaws of the Beast makes it so he can really never get knocked up if he plays it right. And the Victor coming in, I'm not sure what the proficiency for Rutennium... Oh, no, I do. Yeah, Rutennium plays everything. So just really gets to pick their favorite control mage, and into the dive that Greed has, they all want to just run in, but they don't have any hard engage other than Ornn ult. I think Victor's a really good spot here, as well as the Syndra counter pick to come through. I think both teams ended up with pretty comfortable drafts.
Somebody important in order to get maximum effectiveness as we're loading into the game. Second point is, my concern for Feitan's draft right now is their mid-game, if Eggwhites and Rutennium are not online, is incredibly low damage. The last point I want to make is Olaf, in my opinion, should be going Stridebreaker into Serpent's Fang into either Randuin's or something in that vein for his build, because the other thing that is nice about Olaf is, as a melee champion with the power of his axes, he doesn't have to be up close and personal to use that shield breaker. He can break it from, I want to say, like 600 range or something like that with those axes, so he's a very good utilizer of it. It's just the issue is it's going to delay any potential takiness that he can get, but I feel like if they don't build it in this composition, there's no way they're winning late game unless they're up a significant amount of gold.
Yeah, I'm glad we concur. When we went past those first two items, I was thinking, you know, he's got so much slow and also has the stride breaker, but Randuin's would be so strong, and you perfectly pointed that out. I think you can really utilize all of the slow potential when you're playing against a Jinx with a Janna next to them. Also, Warwick's speed can be quite obnoxious. So I think Randuin's value could be quite high, as we are now on the Rift, taking a look at our keystones, not seeing anything too out of the ordinary. I would like to see if Rutennium is going to go for the Korean Victor, not necessarily build path, but going for those extra points in Q early, evolving the Q first to allow them to sustain longer in lane, recognizing that the Syndra is going to be able to very regularly poke them from far range. So curious to see how that plays out.
So Victor in this matchup...
Two things.
Okay. But yeah, Victor in this matchup can go E-Evolve, for sure. He just outranges Syndra with E-Poke. But I don't mind going 2 or 3 points in Q early to going to Emax, just because it does just end up giving Victor more poke overall. But I do understand both instances. Sorry, Jack, you can continue before I introduce Moons back onto the desk as our coach has joined us.
Primus, point you wanted to make?
So the couple things I want to mention, the very interesting summoner choice coming in from Rutennium of that exhaust, that can be very crucial in these late game team fights if he's able to get that onto wheelchair jungler when he goes in with that Ragnarok ultimate. That's going to drastically cut his DPS and make it so much easier for them to burst on that Olaf, because if he can't get the damage down, he can't sustain through the fight. The second point I want to make is I think this game, I really don't want to see Rutennium going for the Roa build. I think him going for a raw burst build, as we're seeing a gank coming in.
Wraparound comes in. We do see the root caller get down onto Bone, but so much healing coming through already. The campfire is doing work, but there's no mana for Peekaboo, so not able to actually capitalize in that moment. I like seeing those early ganks, though, out of ChripsyNuggets. Does mean they're going to give over that bot Scuttle Crab. If I'm Wheelchair, I'm just sprinting topside trying to get that second Scuttle Crab as we welcome in Moon after this draft. I mean, pretty standard for Feitan as Wheelchair is going to get stunned up, lands the axe. Titanium has flash still available, might have to use it, does, to get out of the way of that force of will, but still in a pretty bad spot. Ghost is popped, throwing that axe. The Scatter of the Weak will stun, and first blood comes through for Wheelchair. Just about the worst person you could give this gold to early. Olaf going to be a menace, and I don't know how Ivern's going to be able to hold their own in the jungle if this Olaf starts rolling.
All right, Moons,
So
welcome to the cast.
Ruthenium's best course of action there was flashing the wall back towards his tower and not heading out in the same direction. But again, I'm no mid lane expert. That's just kind of my perspective of things. This is not looking great here.
Dodge the fear. The barrier comes through, and I don't think that feast has been used
so
yet.
close.
It was. Punky just punches him to death. And now, starting to sit in a pretty dangerous situation. Coach, what are we thinking?
I tell this guy at least like once a week to stop just randomly face checking the enemy top laner and set checking him, and he continues to do it. I think he'll do it again, but this time he'll win, I believe.
That makes sense.
But to go back to the Victor point is, I think when you're playing into such a inherently squishy team, you have somebody who can kill tanks on the Jinx, going like Ludens, Lichbane, Shadow Flame, I think can be really effective for Victor, especially because when Olaf uses Ragnarok, he loses all those resistances. He's that much vulnerable to being burst down. I'd like to see that potential build path coming in from Ruthenium, but that's just my opinion. I'm no expert.
Fully agree. Fully
We
agree
are
there.
Emax on the Ruthenium, so no Q, no extra points in Q, just straight up E, and as you can see, I mean, the E's are just raining in on Syndra already, even after giving up the early death.
FOODBATTLE going in, takes the full brunt of the Bellows Breath, gets hit with that Brittle. ChripsyNuggets walking in here aren't able to land that Root Collar, so they are just going to force out that mid-jungle duo. FOODBATTLE once again does have level 6, but pushing into the turret, has that Brittle applied, means that they're not going to be able to fully utilize the push they are gaining, not going to be able to push under turret. Has the recurve bow, obviously no teleport. We mentioned the barrier earlier, so just going to have to back to base, grab longsword, grab boots, going to run all the way back. Decent wave state as long as Punky doesn't want to freeze here as we take a look at the gold. Slight leads across the board for Greed as we move into this late stage early game. First dragon collected by Greed, and we have 1 minute until Void Grubs. I think unless we see something change in the mid and top side, probably going to be a pretty easy pickup for Greed.
I'd like to see a lane
Yeah,
swap, I think,
mean, it's
from,
to be expected.
like,
Greed's
a lane
got a
swap
better
from
early game
them right
composition.
now on this base. If they were to lane swap, it's really hard to dive the Warwick, and it's really easy to just set up your bot lane before Lucian gets there, to where I think that you could actually maybe look to fight these grubs. Especially since you get 6
Yeah,
probably
you make a
on
good
one
point,
camp
but
on the ChripsyNuggets on the Ivern.
Yeah, and FOODBATTLE is up here. Ragnarok procced, going to just use that Infinite Duress to sprint out of there. But with 10 seconds remaining on these Void Grubs, I mean, Primus, that's got to be them just giving it over, right?
I mean, they do have the health advantage, but being down both Ornhorn and Ragnarok is going to make fighting it difficult, but you do have the rotation up from the Greed support to help assist getting those grubs down. I think that's enough power with Kingmaker and Eggwhites staying on the bot side, but I feel like this is costing their Lucian a lot because Lucian was up a fair number of CS in that bot lane before this recent series of events, and then rotating Melio up for these grubs just gives away that bot lane advantage, in my opinion, and if you're playing Lucian Melio, you want that advantage.
Agree. ChripsyNuggets walking into the mid lane now, looking for the root caller. Daisy is going to be called, but not much to do. Kingmaker roamed up as well, but looks like they're just trying to grab control as Daisy is the one getting grabbed. The root caller is going to land, though. If it does get followed, could be dangerous. No one has the damage, though. Brother Otter does have to flash away. Daisy trying to get it done herself. And the super mega death rocket finds the snipe all the way from the bot side, and Lucian is just watching the lead they drafted for just slip away. When you draft Lucian, like you mentioned, Primus, you want to play around the Lucian. Does dash forward and expel the culling, but certainly no risk of death there for Eggwhites.
Tale as old as time. Eggwhites will carry. That's all I'm going to say. Tale as old as time.
I mean, it's the Feitan model. No, regardless of everything else may be on fire, but if Eggwhites is kills, Eggwhites will carry. And you do still see the Lucian has a little bit of a CS advantage, but it's not as great as you would like. It's about 2 waves worth. But given the fact that Jinx is a kill, I imagine they're on even gold right now.
Yeah, about 100 gold lead.
As Conqueror flies into this top lane, does not get the brittle onto Food Battle. Unfazed by the early death under their own turret. Just eating minions, even in CS now. Obviously, slight advantage to Conqueror. Not only do they just come back from base, but have the extra gold from the kill. Maybe going to stop this back, certainly will. Brittle is applied, gets the hit, but that Primal Howl shield doing its job at the damage reduction. Also has that Bramble Vest to stop the healing as Root Caller will land. Daisy will come down, but not able to fully lock them down. They will get the knocked up, but Ragnarok has been procced. A lot of damage being taken, though, and Monsoon is healing just as much. Wheelchair has to try and get out of here. Root Caller will land, but not nearly close enough for them to follow through. Under turret, Super Mega Death Rocket up and available, but I don't think the vision is there. They just want to farm. And now Rutenium finds himself caught out mid. Flash for Kingmaker will survive, help survive Rutenium. Everyone's just playing so close here. Dragon is up and available, and that is why they are so desperate for control of this mid wave.
Rutenium does not have TP.
Can't really afford to
I think this is, unless they can get a good fight, this should just be going over to Greed.
They do have numbers advantage, though. Brother Otter is able to move. He'll be able to pincer them in as ChripsyNuggets gets stunned up by that Scatter of the Week. Goes down immediately. Rutenium so low. Doesn't get hit, though, by the force of will. And now Eggwhite's really the only one available to try and steal his way. Super Mega Tech Rocket will go out barely. Doesn't get the steal or the kill. And in the end, 12 minutes. It's 1-3 and about a 1.5 gold lead, 1.5K gold lead in favor of Greed.
I don't think this is enough of a gold lead to really deter Feitan's draft at this stage of the game. I mean, yes, losing 2 Drake sucks because you have to now play for that 3rd Drake no matter what. Because you really don't want to put them on soul point. But, I mean, Warwick is also one of those champions that you have to get to your first item, I feel, in order to actually really start becoming a problem, because otherwise you only heal at sub 50% HP. And then Jinx needs to get it 1, maybe 2 items. And I don't think that Syndra can outscale the kind of Victor damage that can come out later. And I think that knowing what Wheelchair will probably build here is there's probably a gank here. We probably will see Olaf ulti expended, or yeah. Warwick ulti.
Yeah, Warwick just using the ult, but now Kingmaker behind Peekaboo in a really bad spot, has to make their decision, uses the dash, but just caught in a very awkward spot as another kill going over to Eggwhites. And Primus, I want to get your take on this. Never mind. Ornhorn comes through, doesn't get the knock up though, able to use that fight to get through. Stays alive, but the CC immune is there, so they're not going to be able to fear them away. Massive healing comes through. The turret is fully procced, but Wheelchair will be able to jump out, uses the axe to try and get them
it's a
away.
double
The
kill.
super
It's a
mega
double kill.
death rocket will get a single kill.
Okay,
Shutdown
okay.
comes through on to Eggwhites as well. And I think, Primus, I was going to ask you about the strategy for playing around the scaling pick, but now I want to ask, maybe has this whole thing been an elaborate ruse to get shutdowns onto Jinx's pocket? Again, I can't ask you, though. Kingmaker ends up going down just to the turret. That soccer ball doing so much work to knock them back. Eggwhites is certainly going to go down. The question is whether or not it will be long enough for a shutdown to develop. The answer is no. Kill Gold going on to Lucian, finally starting to get ahead, but I mean, if you're playing for this Jinx late game, Primus, I think you're still feeling okay as long as you don't panic.
I wholeheartedly agree. Jinx is up a whole bunch of AD on the Lucian right now. Yuntao's completion, pickaxe, plus an extra longsword.
700.
The other thing I do want to mention, as it does look like Retenium is going for that burst Lucian, not Lucian, Victor build. Why can't I use words? Which I think is the right decision to be making here with him having the I can't remember the name of the item. The
Ludens?
extra burst damage. Alternator, that's what it is.
Hextech Alternator for the Ludens
with
companion.
The already completed last chapter. The thing I am a bit confused about, like, I understand, Ornn, you're going to be brawling a lot into this Warwick, but I feel like into Feitan's draft, like, Hollow Radiance just gets so much more value than you're going to get from the Sunfire Cape, in my opinion.
Yeah, also allows you to much more effectively wave clear into the Warwick. Also, Warwick, I feel like you don't really know this unless you play against it a lot, but a majority of Warwick's damage is actually magic damage, so would be useful there as we see Wheelchair solo pick up that Rift Herald. I do think in this League of Objectives season that we're living in, Rift Herald ends up being the least valued one of them all. I also wanted to mention how unlucky it is for FOODBATTLE that Otacon spawned topside when he's playing against an Ornn, which is essentially giving him way more free knockups, as we do see culling used in that bottom side. Although I do, as a AD main, I think that this is the best way for Lucian to use that ultimate. Doesn't have any sort of execute mechanic on it, so just using it to get good damage out, get free waves pushed in, get better wave states. I think it's not the worst thing in the world, but Wheelchair is down here clearing a ward. Feitan has to be so careful. Peekaboo jumping in now, but no real way for them to actually get the kill, but the turret sitting so low. I see why this pressure is here. If that Rift Herald goes down and they're able to get this bottom lane out onto the map, it could be pretty bad for Feitan.
Yeah, it would definitely. Oh, that's a dead Syndra.
Very, very dead. FOODBATTLE with a good roam scatter of the week will come through. Just buying some time because you are on the wrong side of the map. That infinite duress comes through. Gold will go on to FOODBATTLE. On the opposite side of the map, though, Ragnarok used for nothing. Going to make this dragon a lot harder to fight if you are XSV Greed. I don't know if they're just going to give it over, though, Primus.
I think they have to, unless Olaf's able to sustain back up enough, because he loses so much power when that ultimate doesn't cool down. The couple things I do want to quickly talk about is it looks like Feitan's going to secure to this dragon. The play where we saw the Kingmaker and Eggwhites getting the kill on Lucian, I'm pretty sure Eggwhites was just sitting in a bush. And that's how they got behind Lucian and ulted him back in to set up that kill. Second thing I want to talk about, as Lucian's not in his home right now, is that I really don't like contesting a second dragon. As we're seeing a teleport, they're looking to fight.
But I don't know if they have the positioning. Punkurus is going to force it, though. Uses that Call of the Forge God to knock out Kingmaker. Going to get knocked up a second time. Gets that kill into Wheelchair's pockets. Rutenium sitting in a bad spot. Gets hit by the axe. Too slow to run. Kill goes on to Brother Otter, but I think this is a decent...
No mana on Eggwhites.
Yeah, no mana on Eggwhites. You're right. I was going to say this could be a decent cleanup angle if they can get one reset, but no mana means no rockets, means no kills for the side of Feitan. Bot tier turret. Bot tier 1 turret will go into Lucian's pocket, and that means that this bottom lane that's spiking at this point in the game is going to be able to open back onto the map, as if Lucian gets IE on their base here, Feitan's going to be in trouble.
Let's see, how much does he have? He does not have
quite,
IE in
still a
base.
little bit short.
All right, we're alive. Food battle, got the turret on the top side, so the trading, okay, but we can only rely on that scaling for so long until it gets to a point where Greed just get a little bit too far ahead.
It's only an 800 gold lead, though. It's not the kill score is 4-8, but we've been getting a lot of. We got a couple shutdowns when they were ahead, so we've kept it close, and then we've been able to at least trade well. And most of our kills are on the people we want them. Like 3 of our 4 kills are on Jinx. We just need Ruthenium to get a couple, and then I think we're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I just think the danger here is, as we see Flash expended and Brother Otter trying to get some damage down. The reason the gold lead, I feel like it's a little bit deceptive at this moment, is because the champions for Greed are spiking right now.
Yeah.
Once Lucian gets the IE, they're going to be much further ahead than the gold lead says, as good scatter of the week will prevent a dive from coming through on Brother Otter. They are just going to kill this middle turret. Very well played, as the Flash will not get them far enough away, but the miss doesn't matter. Eggwhites is able to secure yet another kill. They're going to force for this top turret. I mean, no one is really up your food battle doing so much healing, though. Still healing. Shield comes through from Ivern. Rootcaller will shut them down. Double kill for food battle as the jungle AD duo are taken. And just as I said, they're spiking at this point. Doesn't matter when you have an Enchanter and a Warwick, or you're getting 3-man Dove under your mid turret. Feitan do not flinch, and they're able to recover from that game state.
Oh god. Wheelchair bought the item that should never be bought as an AD champion, in my opinion.
Oof. Experimental Hex Plate on a champion whose ultimate is already on a quite low cooldown at level 11. I think if you're Nocturne, maybe, but
for move speed, is that why he's buying it, for the extra move speed? That would make sense. Extra move speed.
To be what I'm thinking.
It's attack speed on Altcast.
Isn't it also a little bit of move speed, or is it just attack speed?
It's a flat move speed.
Okay.
Yeah, the move speed's flat, but it's... Oh, Kingmaker again with the flash save on Ruthenium.
Well, that time I don't know how necessary it was. The Orenhorn wasn't going to come through because of the gravity field stun. I think Kingmaker is just really understanding their role as, oh god, Peekaboo jumps into the Rift Herald, does get over the Fire Chompers in time. So not going to get totally caught there, but Punkyurus keeps getting slowed over and over again. This time, Eggwhites doesn't have to worry about mana. They got blue buff. Culling comes through, but Daisy, the superhero she is going to tank most of it. Go down. A very, very honorable sacrifice, as Daisy is able to secure all of the damage that Ruthenium would have done there. She will be back up shortly. But if we look at some of the items coming through,
Drake.
Yeah, we're mentioning some of these items, and the benefits of having 2 supports, one of them being in the jungle, is 2.5 completed support items for this Ivern. I mean, Primus, how are they going to fight around this next dragon when this Jinx is so online?
Well, considering nobody is going to be wielding Serpent's Fang this game, it's going to be incredibly difficult because Olaf's now going into tank items, unless he's just buying Ninja Tabby. But I think he's got the allotment of damage items that he should be going this game. I don't like Ruthenium going for the Leandries here, but it's not the worst decision in the world. Olaf and Ornn are both going to have a lot of HP, so it's not like it's a bad thing. But I would have liked to see the Shadow Flame. We have Cinder going for the Spellbinder. It's 2 item versus 2 item AD carry. The difference is whether or not Ivern's going to be effective. As here's the fight.
Bad teleport coming through, immediately going to get CC. Ragnarok is proc, but Exhaust is doing so much work. We see the Infinite Duress dive onto the background. ChripsyNuggets is dead, though, first, and now 2 deaths coming through on Feitan's side. In the back, Warwick gets a 3-man stun, and Eggwhites is going to completely demolish the rest of them. It's an ace for 1. The only one goes down is the Ivern, and Feitan fully take advantage of this game.
I feel like it's too much at this point. I don't think Greed has a chance in hell at this point at coming back into this game.
No. They can't. Basically, the way their wants to function, as I said in the early game, is they want to give Olaf the resets to have that extra duration on his Ragnaroks to increase his damage amp and all that other stuff. Problem is, Ivern and Janet exist, making that incredibly difficult for them to happen, and that's not to mention all the chaos food battles going to do on this Warwick in the back line. And like, you could kill the Ivern, but he just needs to live long enough to sustain against the Olaf dive. And if he dies at that point, he's done his job. No one else is going to kill the Jinx.
We saw
The
it in that
exhaust is
fight.
super good too.
Yeah, the exhaust is so big. We saw it in that fight, though. It does take them a moment to actually get some of these kills, but if they aren't able to dive onto the Jinx, doesn't matter how long you survive for, if you can't take Jinx down, eventually she will come out on top. I'm curious to see two champions going for these grievous wounds as we see masterwork items coming through. I understand Warwick at this point is a massive problem, but earlier in this game, Warwick was not nearly as big of a problem. Kingmaker going for some deep vision here could get in trouble. Stays alive. I'm curious that we see, like I mentioned, some of these more static build comps, stuff you'd see just on your average, op.gg or dpm.gg, any of those things, and not seeing as much adaptation. The Grievous Wounds, obviously good for Warwick now, with how fed Food Battles is. But earlier, really not as necessary. You need that shield cut. You need to be able to take these shields down as Hornhorn comes through, only hits on one, but Rutennium is very far forward, has to use the flash. Eventually, they'll get the kill in the back line. First one down is Brother Otter. Culling is going to come down to try and get some damage, but again, Daisy just taking all of it up. Punky has to use the flash because of their positioning. They have to just, they can just turn to do Baron right now. Victor up and available, Ivern up and available, and Warwick Jinx are going to absolutely shred this thing. Wheelchair Jungler is backing in the top side, so there's not going to be a chance at a smite steal. Going to get this most likely uncontested, while they may try. Kingmaker just holding the door, pushing back. Punkyrus, Baron secured for Feitan.
Whenever you have to use Ragnarok to run away, you know the game is over. I
100%. Like, they didn't get the early game advantage they needed to, and they are just outscaled at this point. Even with Ivern items coming online at this point in the game, it's just not enough.
No, and this is,
you can't overcome 6,000 gold against a superior scaling composition, and Victor has 2 items, and you're going into a 3.5 item Jinx, who I'm pretty sure is almost 100% crit at this point.
Yeah, she's got 90% crit. Another thing that this is why I always dislike Olaf jungle, is that Olaf had a lead, right? And he was ahead in items, and it seemed like everything was going well, but at this point, it's very hard to get gold. So Olaf is on these 2 items, and he's probably, maybe going to complete 1 more item this game, if that. So they just jungle economy is so low, and that's why Ivern's so good, is because support economy doesn't matter. Ivern just gets to have 3.5 items already, while only being up 800 gold.
Fully rooted, going to get immediately destroyed before they can even deal any damage. Rutennium is going to get low, but the Monsoon keeping them alive. They will eventually go down, but Eggwhites has a reset, shoots out the Super Mega Death Rocket, gets one on the top side. Quadra kill coming through. Then we see another massive scatter the weak, but it doesn't get Kingmaker. Trying to get the slows. Flash follow. Eggwhites will not hit that zapper, but the slows being applied for Kingmaker. They want it to come through. No Super Mega Death Rocket, though, means no pentakill for Eggwhites.
Another quadra for Eggwhites.
Just a quadra kill. Might as well not have gotten any kills at that point. As we're getting to the end of this game, we'll have time to talk in between games. So I guess I'll save it for then. As we're looking for this push, they will back up. They want me to make my point. That's why they're leaving right now. We talk about these 80 bruiser junglers, and they are some of the best because of their engaged tools, their ability to be useful in the mid and early games and put out a lot of damage. But you're right, they get to this point and they just get stuck. It's why I like to see 80 bruiser junglers pivot to tank items, because once you get to this point in the game, your job is really just to soak up damage.
I completely agree. I think if they were to have a chance in this game, he had to buy second item Serpent's Fang. I feel like that was their only chance this game. Pair it with maybe having Ilio pick up Australia's for that extra movement speed. But given the fact that this is now going to be a triple Mountain Dragon with a team with all this heals and shields. And one of the things that people seem to forget, shields gain additional effectiveness the more resistances you have. So it's going to be that much more difficult for them, which is so reliant upon getting this one shot. Oh, but Ruthenium!
Speaking of
Oh,
one shot,
Ruthenium.
Ruthenium walks up a bit too far, is going to cost Greed
has a
at
reset.
tier 2, walks too far forward. Eggwhites is getting blown up. The Ornhorn will not come through. Shield 1 comes through, and the kill will go to Olaf. 1,000 gold into his pocket. But Food
Shields
Battle
on Food
has
Battle.
also been fed. Double kill, flash forward to keep it going. Peekaboo has to flash in
God, the
response. But look
shields.
at the shields on top of Food Battle. It's just too late into the game. The Jinx isn't the only one you have to be afraid of, as Warwick shows its use, gets 3 kills. It is a 3v3 though, so they are going to be able to pick up that bot turret. I would like to see them go for the inhibitor instead of going for these Nexus turrets. Nexus turrets are going to respawn. I don't think they have an end angle. Food Battle gets knocked back by that soccer ball. The fear will go off. They're just sitting under tower taking damage, but the shields are so massive. Teleport is coming through. They are going to dive back, kill Bone. Peekaboo stuck in their base, and with the teleport coming through, Food Battle's gonna dive into the Nexus. So they gotta end it here. Ruthenium just wants to show off that Victor from Arcane
Victor got a
Ultimate.
kill. Let's go.
And that is game 1.